Can you give some strategies or just your thoughts on maybe an initial budget for somebody who's just getting started?
Sure, John. I mean, and here's what I always ask. What are your assets? Do you have a list? Do you have website visitors? Do you have a fan page? Those three right there, your list, your website visitors, and your fan page, those are all what I consider a warm audience.
Yeah.
And warm audiences will convert better and cheaper. So that's always good to know. And of course, if you've got those, go with those first. And also what I do is any testing that I want to do, image, headline, copy, that sort of thing, for the creative, I'll test against those warm audiences, and because they're going to resonate better anyway, and then I'll take whatever image or headline or copy won with those warm audiences, and then go out to what I call cold audiences, and the cold audiences are more your general interest, your competitors, that type of thing. And what you're going to see is those costs per conversion pretty much double on the cold audience versus the warm audience. So you have to look at those two factors. Now that being said, it just comes down to a numbers game. So if your average cost per conversion is $5 and you're only spending $2 a day, it's going to be a little hard. And I'm that conversion person. I don't get all caught up in clicks and the click-through rate and the cost per click, because at the end of the day, that's not truly what matters. What matters is what is the cost per conversion or the cost per sale. And I've seen so many campaigns where, and that's what I focus on, the cost per conversion, the cost per sale. And then the click-through rate might be lower, but the cost per conversion is lower too, where you would think it would be the other way. So that's why I say, focus on the end goal of what you want, and those are the measurements you should measure. Now that being said, back to your question about the budget and how much you should spend, I think effectively to do any testing at all, I know people are running $1 and $2 a day. I've not found that to be successful, especially when you pull in that cold traffic for what I've been doing. Now, if I'm just doing a like campaign where I'm getting people to like the page, the fan page, then you can easily get by with, $3, $4, $5 a day for a like campaign. But if I'm looking after conversions, whether it's to get people to opt in for a downloadable or to register for a webinar, then I like to run those. My preference is a minimum of $10 per day on those. I know, again, some people are doing less than that, but when I'm looking at those conversions, I like to do $10 a day. My preference, if I have the budget, is $20 a day. And why I say 20 is because that allows me to quickly test things, especially if you're working in that, $3, $4, $5 per opt-in range, that I can quickly determine what's working and what's not. This might be helpful for the audience too. As I'm talking to people, potential clients and so on, let's just say, for example, a webinar. I like to work through the numbers and make sure it makes sense. So for a webinar, and we'll just say broad strokes across the board, average $5 per conversion. So if you had 1,000 opt-ins, that would be about 5,000 ad spend. Of those 1,000 opt-ins, about 20% are going to actually show up live. So you're looking at 200. If you do a great job with your presentation, you do a good job with your close, you can expect about 10% of those to actually purchase. So that comes down to 20, if we are working with these numbers. So then if you take a look, okay, I spent $5,000 in ad spend. Well, if your product is only $97 and you made 20 sales, that's not going to get you to a break-even point. But if your product, is 500 or 1,000, or your service, then you're going to be able to get to a break-even point. So I always want to work through those numbers with people, and some people might be going, 5,000, that's not even in my, radar. That was just broad stroke numbers, and it's easy for me to calculate in my head, 1,000, 100, and so on. So you just reduce it. So if you don't have that ad spend, then it comes down, you just have 100 people, and then you're looking at $500, and you work the numbers that way. But I always work the numbers, because then it allows you to see what the potential is and where the holes are that you need to plug.